You know the exact sound of a notification bell, even when it is buried beneath 3 layers of fabric inside your bag, or muted on a desk surrounded by papers. Your chest tightens slightly every time the screen lights up, not with excitement, but with a quiet, exhausting dread. You unlock it, your thumb already hovering over the invisible scale, measuring the weight of an approval that arrives in numbers, hearts, or brief strokes of digital validation. If it is high, you exhale a breath you did not realize you were holding. If it is low, or worse, if it is met with silence, a cold drop of insignificance spreads through your ribs. You tell yourself it does not matter. You tell yourself you are above needing applause. Yet, the rest of the day feels like moving through thick, gray water, your worth quietly leaking out of you through every unanswered comment and every unread message. This is the invisible architecture of living as a slave to recognition. It begins so quietly, disguised as ambition, diligence, or simply wanting to do well by others. You learn early on that safety lives in the eyes of the people around you. You map the terrain of their moods, adjusting your volume, your posture, and your boundaries to fit whatever shape keeps them smiling, nodding, or validating your existence. Over time, the original shape of who you are becomes compressed, folded inward like a discarded piece of paper until it is entirely unrecognizable. You become an expert at reading micro-expressions, scanning every room you enter to check if you are accepted, if you are liked, if you are safe. The exhausting part is not the work itself, but the constant translation. Every choice you make undergoes a rigorous, silent audit before it is ever expressed. You do not ask yourself if you like the project, if you believe in the goal, or if the path aligns with your quiet truths. Instead, you ask a different, heavier question: what will they think when they see this? Will they clap? Will they look away? That invisible audience sits permanently in the theater of your mind, whispering critiques from the shadows even when you are completely alone in an empty room at 3 a.m. By midday, the fatigue is heavy behind your eyes. You sit at your desk or walk down a crowded hallway, wearing a polished, cooperative expression that requires an immense amount of hidden muscle tension to maintain. Someone passes by and offers a casual compliment, and you feel an immediate, sharp surge of relief, a warm drug that floods your system, making you feel momentarily real, momentarily alive. But the high is terrifyingly short. Within minutes, the baseline anxiety returns, demanding another fix, another nod of approval, another external proof that you actually exist and that your existence matters. You are tethered to a remote control held entirely by hands other than your own. When you get home, the contrast is stark and deafening. The door closes, the locks click into place, and the sudden silence feels less like peace and more like a vacuum. The performance stops, but the actor is too tired to leave the stage. You stare at the blank walls, trying to remember what you actually enjoy when no one is watching, when no metric is tracking your progress, when no one is there to grade your performance. The internal landscape feels vacant, overgrown with weeds of doubt because you have spent every available drop of energy cultivating a garden meant only for the passing public to admire. You find yourself scrolling endlessly through feeds of other people performing their own versions of this exact same play. You watch strangers seeking the same elusive prize, trading pieces of their inner peace for digital currency and fleeting glances from anonymous crowds. It is a strange kind of modern loneliness, surrounded by billions of interconnected voices, yet completely cut off from the only voice that actually matters, your own. You realize with a dull, sinking ache that you have outsourced your emotional stability to people who do not even know your real name, people who would scroll past your absence just as easily as they scroll past your presence. The tragic irony of this psychological cage is that the harder you try to secure everyone else's approval, the more invisible you become to yourself. Every time you swallow a dissenting thought to keep the peace, every time you perform a version of yourself that is palatable rather than authentic, you chip away another foundational block of your self-trust. You become a ghost haunting the life you are supposed to be living, watching yourself from a distance like an unhappy director trapped in a bad film that never ends. The mirror does not reflect a person anymore, it reflects a mirror, reflecting other people's expectations. There comes a quiet moment during the week when the notifications finally stop, or you consciously turn the phone face down, and the silence is too loud to ignore. It is in these unscripted, uncomfortable spaces that the true cost of your compliance reveals itself. You are not exhausted from overwork, you are exhausted from self-betrayal. You have built an entire life on borrowed scaffolding, terrified that if the applause ever dies down completely, the structure will collapse and reveal nothing underneath. The heavy truth settles in your chest without drama or theatrical resolution. No one is coming to hand you the internal permission slip you have been waiting for. The applause from the outside world can never fill the hollow space left by your own abandonment. You stare at your hands that have spent a lifetime clapping for everyone else, building pedestals for people who would never think to build one for you. You realize that stepping out of this invisible prison does not require a dramatic speech or a sudden rebellion. It simply requires the terrifying, lonely courage to let them be disappointed, while you finally turn around to meet the stranger standing quietly in the dark inside your own mind. The loudest applause in the room cannot fill the silence left inside.